Gearheads. So we're finally going to be working on the Miata again today. It has been sitting for like a month, and it's for the stupidest reasons too. We had to do that heater core job on it because the heater core blew. Then after that we ended up doing the Fly Miata fan setup and all that stuff, and that was cool. We know they work, which is great, but something that did not work was the fan switch, because when we put on the coolant reroute, we switched the fan switch over to the back side of the engine, and then I put that coil pack bracket on that I had before on the last car, and that worked fine on that car because that car did not have a coolant reroute. But I didn't realize when I set it down and screwed it in, it pulled it in and it actually broke the fan switch. Not good. So we're gonna go ahead and just install a new fan switch real quick. It's a very easy job to do that. But while we're at it, we're also going to make new brackets for my ignition coils, because this is the 1.8 swapped in the 1.6 car. The 1.6 coils do not mount straight onto the back of the valve cover like they do with whatever. The 1.8 and 1.6 ones mount differently. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead and bang that out and do it real quick. It's not a hard job to do. I don't know how many people are going to find this really useful and helpful, but I'm sure some of you out there have done a 1.6 to 1.8 swap or would like to at some point. And especially if you're doing a coolant reroute, even if you're not, you need to make brackets anyway. But if you are, then we're showing you the exact thing that you might be doing.
Like Jesse said, we don't have a huge job today, but our goal is to get this car back on the road and get Jesse driving it again, because he has not driven it in a very long time, and I'm sure that he misses it.
It's been like 2 months since I've driven this car, which is kind of ridiculous, because we even did stuff like the signal lights, we did the headlights, we did the heater core, we did this. Like I only drove it one time after the engine swap, and then the heater core blew. So anyways, let's get started, and hopefully I can drive this home tonight. Woo. Okay, so before we do the coil pack bracket, we're gonna go ahead and just throw in the new fan switch, which is this guy right here. Now this is gonna be down on the back side of the motor, so look down back here and down that way, because that's where it sits now with the coolant reroute. Okay, so you can see down here is the broken fan switch. It just broke the part off the top where the plug goes into it. So anyway, that's just one bolt. I don't remember what size it is, maybe 17 or something. And I'll yank that out, put the new one in, and then we'll start on the bracket. So here's my coil pack, and you can see these two brackets that I put into it right here. Now what I did that time is I just had some sheet, like thin steel sitting around, and I think it's like a 16th of an inch or something like that. I cut them out into a shape I wanted. I set them down on a bench and hammered an angle into them so they're, you know, a 90-degree right angle. And you can see right here that the mounting points I put into the coil pack, the stock ones would have gone straight forward and down from here, but I chopped off the edges, and then I drilled a hole here and I drilled a hole here. I just put a bolt and a nut through. Anyways, this time I'm gonna have to move it further over because this wasn't far enough, because the edge down here, I even tried to do this. I tried to cut the corner off here. And it wasn't enough. It was still hitting onto the fan switch somewhere around over here, and just no matter what I tried looking at it, it was gonna bump into this either way, so it wasn't gonna work. So this time I have an angled piece of aluminum, so I don't have to worry about hammering an angle onto a flat piece of metal. This time I'm just going to go ahead and line this up, take a measurement, and I think I'm just gonna move it over about another maybe 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch, and that should be enough for the clearance I need. So if you want to do something like this yourself, just set your coil pack down there, and you're gonna have to try and take some rough estimates. Get as close as you can, but take some rough estimates and figure out where this thing needs to be. This was totally fine before when I did not have the coolant reroute, but now that I have a coolant reroute and I have all the extra stuff back there, it doesn't fit anymore. So let's get started. So I have my angle iron sitting on the table right here, and I just set my old brackets onto it actually, and I marked up exactly where this hole is, which is where it's supposed to mount into the block, and then the bottom part here where it's going to mount onto the coil pack, I went over 3/4 of an inch on the angle iron from each of those holes. So overall, this should move the whole thing over 3/4 of an inch, and that should be plenty of room for me to clear the fan switch there that was giving me an issue before. So I already marked these. I'm gonna go ahead and drill the holes first because I feel like it'll be easier while I can hold the whole thing on a table here and drill through them. And then after that, I'll go ahead and chop the pieces off with the chop saw here. And I think it should actually work pretty well. I shouldn't really have any issues. The one thing I will say, these guys stretched out a little further, which means they're holding away further from the engine. This is a little bit shorter on the angle iron here, or what are angle aluminum here. So it's gonna be a little bit closer, but I already checked and looked at it. It's gonna be fine. It'll pull it a little bit closer to the head of the engine, but it's not gonna be crushing anything or holding the actual coils here against it too tightly or anything like that. So we should be good. Let me go ahead and drill these holes out and then chop it and see what happens. All right, well, you can see that it is very close to the edge of the top here on these things, but the coil pack is not a very heavy object, so I'm not worried about it. Once you get those bolts set in there and they have a head over them to squeeze down, this thing's not gonna go anywhere. All right, I got my glasses on because I'm cutting with the saw again because I forgot something. We've got the coil pack bracket here, which is supposed to mount on here. One thing I forgot with the old ones is this whole corner here will run into the coil pack if I don't cut it out. So the hole is in the right spot and this should all actually work pretty well. But what I actually need to do is cut a corner out of here. You can use a grinder to do this. I'm gonna use the chop saw and hold it with vice grips. You don't wanna hold something this small with your fingers because if for any reason that thing gets snagged by the saw and pulls your fingers, you don't wanna chop your fingers off in the saw. So I'm using the vice grips. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna set this up and cut this real fast the way it needs to be cut, and hopefully it works. Okay, so I've tried installing this twice now, and both times I had to take it back off because I realized something else needed to be cut or adjusted or whatever. And now, I guess that's why I'm doing it on a video and showing you guys how I'm doing it so that you can not make these mistakes and not have to do it twice. So I was thinking ahead in the right way first time by putting the bracket on this side, and I had to cut this section out of it so that it didn't rub into the coil pack here. But I didn't realize that the one on this side, I just left the ear on it because I didn't figure it mattered. But on this side, actually, there is the bolt that goes over the cam sensor cover there, and that bolt is getting hit by this bracket here. So I need to actually cut the ear off this one as well. And what else? Oh, also, when I'm trying to install it that far over, on the back of the engine, there's a couple things sticking out. There's not sensors or anything, it's just like mounting points for whatever. I can't think of it right now, but anyways, they're hitting on this guy right here too. Now, this is not going to be mounted to anything anyways, since we're moving it out of the stock location. It's not going to line up, it's not going to fit. So I actually need to just chop this off of the coil pack bracket as well. So I've got the grinder here, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut these things real quick, and hopefully this time when I install it, it all works. Okay, so I don't know that you would necessarily need to cut it the exact same way I did, but I just cut the whole bottom ear off this thing so that it's not bumping up against the back of the motor and those things back there that it's hitting. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and actually just try installing it this way and see how it works. All right, now that's mounted in there and I'm pulling on it and it's very sturdy. It's not flexing or moving around much. That L bracket stuff I used was thicker than the last one, so it's actually holding pretty good. Either way, this is actually temporary. Eventually, I'd like to swap to some LS coils, you know, routed and mounted somewhere else completely, but for now, this is what I'm using and I probably will for a while. And it should work. Now I just gotta stick the spark plug wires on, and this is a 1.8 engine, but just remember I'm using a 1.6 coil pack, so I need to mount it on the order of the from 1.6. So it goes 3, 2, 1, 4 for that one. So there's number 3, here's number 2, here's number 1, and 4. 3, 2, 1, 4 from left to right. All right, that should be it. And then the fan switch is on there. Now, to test out the fan switch, I know already if I ground out that wire that the fans come on, which is good, but what I'm gonna actually have to do is now fill it up with coolant, because I didn't do that yet, and just run the motor until it gets nice and warm. And then as long as that's all working properly, hopefully I don't see any leaks back there from where I installed the fan switch, but if it's all working properly and not leaking, the fan should come on when it hits the right temperature, and I should be pretty good to go here. Okay, so good news and not so good news. The coil pack brackets actually worked out great. I had to pull it in and out a few times and make some adjustments, make a couple extra cuts, but all said and done now that they're in there, it's very sturdy and it works well, which is great. Now the bad news is since the heater core blew up in this thing, we have not put coolant in it, run the engine, and tested it all out. This is the first time tonight, just now that we did that, and we didn't film and show the whole thing. We just basically, I filled it up, and I kept adding it as bubbles kept coming because we had drained the whole system, but we sat here for a while. It was a good 20, 25 minutes, and bubbles keep showing up. And they're all small bubbles. So, I'm afraid that when the heater core blew, because it was sitting there running, and the fans didn't turn on, I'm afraid it might have blew the head gasket.
We yet again have a problem with this car.
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, because at least according to the 10 gauge
well, not even in addition to that, the fans weren't turning on. Did you say that?
I didn't say that. I was going to get there. Hold on though. We have the coolant reroute thing going on and this big huge radiator, so I mean, and it's not hot out right now, so maybe it's not getting hot enough to turn the fans on. I don't know. I'm gonna have to test it more to see. I know the fans work from the fan switch, at least from the wiring. I grounded it out, I checked already, that works. But it's possible the fan switch we put in is, it should be working. I don't know. I'm pretty dang sure that's not the issue, but the fans did not turn on yet. If you see a little steam right now, that's really just because I was burping the coolant and it was dripping down and it's kind of just steaming off. But yeah, we were running the motor and it just keeps having little bubbles come up. So I really hope the head gasket is not blown. But anyway,
we completed some of the things we set out to do today, which is great.
Some of the things.
However, getting this back to it being Jesse's daily driver is still
not looking good.
In the grave somewhere. So, it looks like we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and hopefully we can figure this out soon because we've got more cars coming in.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to make some room here.
So. I know. I wanted to get my car running so we can start putting the turbo on it.
Yeah, that'd be nice as well.
I care way more about that than all the other cars that may or not be coming in. I just want my turbo back. Oh, the dog's barking at somebody.
Make sure it doesn't kill something.
I guess we better get out of here, Matt.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to continue to follow us. We still have more content coming up, and we have even more projects to do now.
Apparently.
So we'll get those out to you guys as soon as we can. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and don't forget to support us by purchasing these lovely shirts of ours.
Lovely t-shirts.
They keep us cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Other than that, don't forget, keep wrenching.